Take a breath in. 106. 106.
I'm proud of my dad.
Forearm. Do you wear a watch?
He's been a great dad, and the business that he's built up it's got a reputation. It's in a Melbourne institution.
A cuff width of, let's say there's a watch there. Make the left cuff 25.5 and the right cuff 25.
His clientele ranges from celebrities to just normal people, but the way he's stuck at it and his tenacity and his ability to keep going
44
is something to be very proud of.
I'm 70 now. If somebody said to me, you're retiring tomorrow, I think I would have difficulty with that. I worked in a textile manufacturing company, and that developed ultimately into a business that I started in 1974 purely because I could never get a shirt myself to fit me with my body length, my height, my arm length, in a fabric that I really liked. And so I went searching, and then I started developing, getting the right technicians around me to make sure that we have the right formula to make shirts.
A little bit of orange.
Bit of orange in it.
Oh, I like that.
This is a really lovely shirt, beautiful fabric that. Have a feel of that. We have a lot of fabrics here that will give you an option in your palette. Swiss cotton.
Swiss.
Yeah, a lot of skin tones are difficult to match. You get somebody with a very reddish complexion. You would say stay away from red, but in actual fact, you put something that's reddish in the fabric that can actually enhance the skin and make it look much more balanced. There's a lot more in a shirt than meets the eye. But the cut of the shirt is an important aspect to it. The other is the shape of the collar. Arun, our shirt maker, pattern maker, is just working on that now. It's a very important part of the process to have the collar very specifically right, according to the neck height, the size, the shape of the face. All these things come into consideration.
See a bit of bubbles in there? It's not completely glued on.
It's designed so that the actual passport photo that you would take of this person will be absolutely perfect. So there's no, sliding collars or ties that are hanging loose or anything like that. It's all absolutely symmetrical and properly designed. It's got to be flattering. It's got to be something that looks almost better than what this person would normally be able to get anywhere. I am a very discerning buyer myself, and of course I want the shirt to be something that I would wear. And if it's not good enough for me, then it's not going to go out the door anyway. It's as simple as that.
It's as old as me. The business is as old as I am, and I've never not known it.
We started originally from the back rooms of a house that I owned, which I'd converted to workrooms in cutting room and machining and what have you. Once I had tested my shirts on my friends and family, I realized that it was time to go. And so in January 1974 we opened a shop in High Street, Armadale. It was sort of like there was no business plan. So it was purely opening a shop and making sure that it looked right. with a nice window and some really good shirts on display, some designs that I'd made up, and it was an instant success. It was just like, couldn't believe how much business this is January 1974, by Easter 1974, I had so much work, I didn't know where to go. The small shop actually became too small. We had far too many people working there, so we moved a few doors up in 1980 and had a much bigger shop. We had like a factory, 3,500 square feet. You know, I had about 20 staff in there at one stage. So we used to produce probably over 100 shirts a week. Yeah, I was very lucky. Yeah. It was all going extremely well. My family was growing. I had my youngest daughter was born in 1982, so I had my 3 children. They all grew up with mum and dad both working. My wife was in the business, so she had her own side of the business, which was ladies' tailoring.
And the different staff that we've had over the years, when I was babysat by some of them, and one lady, Antoinette, who's no longer with us now, she's retired, but I knew her since, well, I can't remember not knowing her. So for Hemden, for me, is sort of almost like a bit of a family. I know it sounds really corny, but it's sort of like a family to me.
We had about 5 shops and 2 in the city. We were represented in quite a few other shops. At one point, our business had about nearly 50 staff. But looking back on it now, I probably would have liked, and that's one of the things I would have done differently, I wouldn't have expanded. Not the way it turned out in those days. It was too ambitious. There was a bit of an ego in this as well. And as you get older, the ego goes out the window a bit. Every person, every client that's ever been in here, the pattern we've kept. So there's at the moment about 28,000 patterns in this whole section here. Over the years we've made for some very famous people. We've made for Sammy Davis Jr., for instance. I was their private tailor for Malcolm Fraser until recently he died. I have obviously made for many TV personalities like Bert Newton, Don Lane, those sorts of people. I'm not such a person to have the names of famous people who come here signed, "Dear Eugene, what a great service you offer." I tend to play it a little bit more low key. But people generally know that we've got some very well-known clients coming in here.
The former premier was our customer, Ted Bellew, Mr. Ted Bellew. A couple of years back, he used to come quite often on TV, and we used to see him wearing our shirts. I tell my children, I call them and I tell them, see, that is the shirt I cut and that is the shirt we did in our shop in Hemden. So, you know, that makes us feel very proud.
The purpose of this is the actual fitting of the shirt to make sure that everything is in proportion. If you feel the pin going in, don't hit me. So the collar is the most important part. We need to take that little bit of fullness out of there. The collar really should sit a little bit higher on the neck. It's only, we're talking about a few mil. Now we go in front of the mirror, this mirror here. There's a bit of fullness here that needs to come out. You're slightly over one side, so we've got to lift that to make sure that we don't have any lines. And then we've got to take a little bit of the fabric out. Sign of a really good shirt is that the sleeve length doesn't move. So sometimes you see shirts and you see it going short like that when you're driving the car or whatever it is. It shouldn't happen. It should always stay in position.
Yeah, but you're right about the length. I think they're a little bit too long.
Yeah, they are
If they,
too long. So it would be 1/7 shorter.
I come in here one day a week and help Dad, let him have a bit of a day where he can do some running around because it's a one-man show in terms of the front of the shop.
The business is because of me, because I started it and I've made a name for it and I obviously have this following. But at the same time, I think that it has to be a business if it wants to continue.
I'd been working in the business since I'd finished high school. I went straight into work with Dad. The original plan was for me to take over the business at some point.
What was happening was our turnover was dropping probably annually by maybe 50 to 100 grand, and you can't keep that going for too long. So we had to scale down the business very quickly, and that was painful, I thought.
He doesn't want to retire, but if the business is making you so stressed that you can't, that you're not well, then there's no point to that. So I think we had conversations along those lines at various points when things were difficult.
We consulted a business advisor, and he did a plan. He analysed everybody's interests, my wife, me, Kim.
I wasn't as passionate about the business as maybe another person might be. I'd been doing it for quite a long time, and I felt that maybe my time had come and gone in terms of wanting to take it to another stage or development.
And we realised that we're probably in a holding pattern. We're just sort of waiting for somebody to come in and breathe some new life into this.
And eventually it came out that that I wasn't maybe that keen to take it on, and Dad wasn't that keen to give it up. So it was a sort of a combination of things, but it was difficult.
Does it disappoint you when that he's not interested?
It did some time ago when we first had a discussion about this, but I don't think, I'm glad in some way it didn't happen, because I still feel that this is my business and that I want to continue with it, even in the scaling down process, that it sort of has my imprimatur, my contact.
It just didn't happen the way we wanted it to, but that's business, it's life, I suppose.
When the end of the lease came in High Street, we decided to move. Wanted to find a new position, new location, not too far away with parking. This is what we've got here.
It was a really big move, and I think for Dad, he wasn't sure whether or not it was going to pay off, people were going to come, or what, but it has worked out exceptionally well.
Here we started from a much lower base, and now we're back to more than half or 3/4 of what the business we were doing in High Street, with a fifth of the cost. So it's a no-brainer. It's actually really come into a wonderful formula for me.
I've sort of slowly stepped out of it. It's been a gradual sort of thing. I decided to go to university. I hadn't been to university before, so I thought it's a good opportunity. I finished a bachelor degree about 2 years ago, and now I'm doing a master's, so which is good.
For me to retire would mean doing a lot of things that I haven't been able to do, which are on my bucket list, so to speak. But I'm not quite ready, I think. I'm still in the process of establishing this new, smaller business. I've set myself a 5-year plan here. So 70, I'm 70 now, so 75. In 5 years' time, I'll build it up again or that we're in a position here where somebody's keen to take it over. So the name continues. I mean, a business like this, you don't say goodbye to just like that. You can't. It's been part of you. That the product is being maintained, the quality is there continuously. That is it for me. Yeah. If somebody said suddenly, look, the quality there has dropped off, I'm sorry, I'm not going there anymore, I'll be very upset.
Perfect Hemden shirt. Perfection. And I'm sure he's going to be happy with it. But they keep coming back.
So Rob, here's your shirt.
This is it.
This is it. The shirt is about probably the most important garment in a wardrobe. It's got to be comfortable, but it's also got to look right. You know, it's very important to be well dressed, because that is part of feeling right, being comfortable in what you say and how you present it. And it does a lot. I mean, people, when they look at themselves in the mirror in one of our shirts, there's a sense of confidence. It may just be 10 or 15%, but it helps. And the choice of fabric, in your particular case, I think that the orange with that grey-blue stripe is actually quite an ideal colouring for you.
Well, I'm very happy with the advice and everything.
The King of Holland can be very pleased.
Yes. Long leven de koning. Okay, thank you, Eugene.
Leven de koning.
Thank you.
Yeah, all the best. And thank you for coming in.